What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Windy City Gridiron Radio with you, as always, your host, Robert Zaglinski. And in the first of a summer preview series before the regular season starts, over the next few months, we'll be going through each of the Bears' 13 2018 opponents. I've wanted to plan this week by week ideally, but we'll see how things shake out. Luckily enough, my first guest was available since the Bears will be playing the Packers on Sunday Night Football to open the 2018 season. My first guest, brilliant guest, was available to discuss this and keep that plan in order. Zach Jacobson of Cheesehead TV is here. Zach, what's up?
Robert, thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, man. I figured it'd be perfect to kick this kind of thing up for you and I to start a dialogue and get this thing going.
It's only right. We're opening up the season against each other, you know? This is how it has to be.
Before we get to that game, Zach, obviously the 2017 season wasn't what the Packers planned, so let's pick up the pieces from there. Aaron Rodgers' injury was the story. That was probably what sunk the team and broke a playoff streak of 8 straight years. But did it show other cracks in the armor?
Yeah, it showed, really, because Aaron Rodgers has been that adhesive that has held the roster together for years now, going on a decade. So, when he went down, that kind of unmasked a ton of other deficiencies on the roster, from mainly on the defensive side of the ball, but also the receivers weren't able. Well, aside from Devontae Adams, who somehow meshed with Brett Hundley, that was like his go-to guy. Really, they weren't able to mesh with Brett Hundley, like Jordy Nelson. He's been so dependent on his connection with Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like that's going to be something to watch as he ventures to Oakland. If he's going to be able to emulate that same connection with Derek Carr, that he had with Rodgers. So it's gonna be something to watch. How they pick those pieces up. Like you said, and if they can kind of get back to the same team they were before, because Rodgers goes down and they looked worse than the Cleveland Browns. And I know the Browns, they've won, one game in the last 2 years, like 1-29, 1-31. They look bad. And I know all the changes took place this offseason, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, the whole front office personnel from top to bottom, everything was changed. But, are we going to see a dramatic improvement in one season with a completely renovated front office and coaching staff under Mike McCarthy? It's gonna be fun to watch.
We'll get to that front office in a second, but I'm sure you're kind of tired of talking about it. I'm sure much of the national media sensationalizes this, but what's the deal for those that aren't as in tune with it? What's the deal with Aaron Rodgers, and I'm doing air quotes, being pissed at the Packers or working his contract? What's going on there?
I think a lot of that is just a lot of air fluff, just kind of filling in the airwaves. I mean, he's said after those reports have come out about how he's miffed at the organization. I mean, sure, he was probably a little irritated at first that they didn't let him know that they were allowing Alex Van Pelt, his former quarterback coach, to pursue other opportunities, and they didn't notify him that they were releasing Jordy Nelson, which they shouldn't. On one hand, you have this guy who's been pretty much carrying your franchise for, several years now. He's been the cornerstone of your franchise. And on the other hand, you have the whole philosophy of players play, coaches coach, and front office guys do the whole front office thing. They handle the football operations. And Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he expected. Well, according to the media, he expected to be involved in that process, which is wrong, because I know, as far as we know, most big-time quarterbacks in the league, they're not involved in those operations. Am I right? I mean, as far as we know.
As far as we know, I mean, there's like Tom Brady, but Tom Brady sets his own schedule.
yeah. Tom Brady pretty much runs the Patriots next to Bill. But after that, he said multiple times, he wants to continue. He wants to keep playing in Green Bay. I mean, he bought what shares in the Milwaukee Bucks. He's a part-time owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. He pretty much embodied every Packer fan on Twitter screaming that he's an owner because he has a piece of paper. Sorry, that was a shot at my own fan base. Yeah, I mean, he really he wants to continue playing in Green Bay, and he has said that. He's shown that he's grateful to be in Green Bay. He's shown that he wants to keep playing until his current contract ends, and whether he gets a new one or the slim, very minuscule chance he doesn't, which is completely out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, I wouldn't look too much into any of that.
The timeline for that contract, I saw a report that you actually published yesterday, was July for that contract being finished, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Preferably, I think they're trying to get that done by training camp. I mean, we've heard things all offseason about how, they're waiting until Kirk Cousins gets it done. Oh, they're waiting until Matt Ryan gets it done. And now they're both done. And now, Aaron Rodgers, Russ Ball, Brian Gutekunst, they're all his agent. They're all up at the plate.
So what you're saying is there's no chance of the Packers letting the best quarterback go to like the AFC and leave the NFC North. Like there's like no chance of that. Like there's no possibility. Just like no faint hope.
Yeah. I know it seems really far fetched, that they would let him go,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's absolutely zero chance.
Let's pick it up with the front office changes and some coaching staff changes. So the big one to me is probably Mike Pettin. Dom Capers has been a guy that I've seen Packers Twitter and a lot of Packers folks be frustrated with for the past few years, especially ever since. Yeah, especially ever since that says it. Your exasperation says it. They had an elite defense when they won the Super Bowl in 2010, and it's been all down. It was all downhill from there. And they've brought in a guy in Mike Pettin, who I think is one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. Talk about his impact and what he's been able to do so far, and how he'll will change the outlook away from the molasses, I guess, that Capers established.
Well, I know Tramon Williams recently, one of our gone and then now back again free agent signings. He even came out and said that Dom Capers' philosophy, it wasn't modernized anymore. I mean, when Capers was first hired by Green Bay in 2009, he had a modernized defense, and by the time the league caught up to it, he didn't adjust. And that's what Williams said. He didn't adjust to what the league was discovering and what other coaches were scheming around to figure out what he was doing with his defense. So, it was just a fresh change was needed. And, like you said, my exasperation said it all. I mean, we've seen the last few years how bad the Packers have been on defense. I mean, they ranked in the bottom third of rankings in, I believe, almost every single of the last few years. I'm not sure what the actual statistic is, but they've been bad.
They've been bad. That's putting it lightly. That's probably
putting it very back. Lightly. Yeah. I'm trying to sugarcoat it a little bit. Keep it PG-13.
Defense, 22nd last year in total defense. Hold on, because just to back it up, and I'm not rubbing it in. I'm really just looking at it. 22nd in defense in 2016, and then 2015. Oh, page error. That's from the ESPN stats site. So that's actually pretty.
That tells you everything. Yeah, that tells me everything.
Yeah.
That would have been more fitting in 2016 because in 2015 they weren't so bad, but the point stands.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Mike Pettin though, they haven't even taken the field yet for OTAs, and you could already tell the energy is just completely different. What he's bringing it to Green Bay and how the players are reacting to it, how they're responding to him, and how energized they are for this fresh change, which, like I said, was just completely needed, completely warranted, and I'm surprised it took this long. But I'm not in Green Bay's front office. I'm not part of the personnel staff. I'm not paid to make those decisions. So, nobody cares two squats about what I think, about what any fan thinks. They know what they're doing. So I trust for the most part their decision making, and I think to move on from Capers at the time that they did, it was definitely time.
All right. The other big note was Ted Thompson stepping down from the general manager position. He had been in that spot for over a decade. And now you have Brian Gutekunst. I said that right, and Zach will note that I've asked him multiple times how to pronounce it.
You did at least three times,
and I did it well. I think I did it well.
You did. I'm clapping for you right now.
Thank you.
Proud of you. You're welcome.
How would you gauge you can't really gauge how he does until the Packers play in the field, and a lot of what he'll do will be enhanced by having the best quarterback in the league. But he had a free agency, and he has a draft behind him now, and the vision of the franchise, I guess, is continuing under him. What have you liked about him so far, and what's he going to have to prove to you?
Well, so far, I mean, I really love his draft. And I'm sure we'll get to that later in the show, but his draft was, numero uno of everything that I've loved about his tenure so far, his very short tenure. Outside of that, definitely just how he's strayed away from what Green Bay has known for the last 12, 13 years under Ted Thompson.
Yeah.
Breaking the thresholds to draft a cornerback under what Thompson was so used to targeting. I don't think they had broken those thresholds since I believe Ahmad Carroll or Terrell Buckley, one of the two. But he's creating his own path, and he's doing it his own way, and that's still with Ted Thompson in the front office. As the senior advisor to football operations. But Gutekunst, he's just definitely just down to earth, and he relates to the people of Wisconsin so well. I mean, he in his press conferences, he talks about going to drink beer in his garage, and how he's really down to earth guy from what we've seen so far. And I think Green Bay needed like a fresh young start as general manager, someone with like a better, more modernized outlook on how a football team should be run. And that's not a knock on Thompson. I've been one of the primary defenders of Ted Thompson on Twitter for the last 2 years when everyone's knocking the poor old guy.
So you don't think Thompson was a problem necessarily? It was just kind of a breath of fresh air thing, just like a usual.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if he continued to do his job through this season as Green Bay's general manager, I think things would be fine. Mm-hmm. People wouldn't like it because obviously they want to see change. Packer fans want to see change. Most of the time, regardless of what it is, they could say, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers had a bad game. Get him the hell out of here. Put in DeShone Kizer. I just want change." Maybe not that bad, but you get the point. Change needed to happen. And same thing with the defensive coordinator position. Change needed to be happened. Capers had his tenure there. It kind of got drawn out a little bit, maybe longer than it should have. Same could be said maybe for Thompson, although I would disagree. But I definitely think Gutekunst is he's, as you would say, a breath of fresh air. And I'm actually excited for what he's going to do, for the rest of the off season, because I know this is right around the time of the year, the compensatory picks, the deadline passed, so now veterans can kind of sign, without there being any what's the word? Negative impacts.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Either way it works. Negative impacts on teams, for signing those guys, for letting them go. So, who knows if Green Bay will dip into the free agency market again. And, that's another area that Gutekunst exercised this offseason by signing, Muhammad Wilkerson, Travon Williams, Jimmy Graham. So, it's really it's just nice. That's the best way to put it. Yeah, it's just nice.
Nice and succinct. Before we discuss the acquisition period, so the draft and free agency. Now that those are behind us, what are remaining questions for the Packers? What are some, I don't know, I guess big roster battles or storylines outside of Aaron Rodgers' contract, obviously, over the next few months until camp begins and until the season starts? What else are you looking for over the next few months? If you have anything if there's anything like that, that's really looming or prominent.
Oh yeah, well, I know everybody's going to be focused on the wide receiver position because, Green Bay drafted 3 wide receivers over 6'3", so everyone's going to be kind of watching that in camp. But I really want to see who emerges in the backfield because I know Aaron Jones, he's the best runner on the Packers roster, easily, unquestionably. But Jamal Williams has him beat in the area of pass protection, and Jones isn't going to get snaps in the backfield if he can't surpass Williams in pass protection. So, I want to see if Jones can take that next step and kind of, evolve his game from that standpoint. If he can kind of surpass Williams, because, we know in an offense with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be passing it probably 60-65% of the time. There's not going to be a demand for the running game. There's not going to be a reliance on the running game like there was last season with Brett Hundley, So I really want to see who emerges in that little battle there. But outside of the running backs, the wide receivers, I want to see who emerges at right guard, what they do there, because they have Cole Madison, who they drafted in the 5th round, who could transition. He transitioned from tackle to guard. They're probably going to play him at right guard because I don't think they're going to re-sign Jari Evans. He's probably as good as gone, which sucks. I really liked him.
Yeah. So someone's got to block Akeem Hicks. I get the concern.
Yeah, then I got to worry about him. No, you're right though. It'll be fun to see who they plug in at right guard, and if for some reason they decide to move Madison back out to right tackle, where he could play. While Brian Bulagi heals, because he's probably not going to be ready by the season opener. He's recovering from a torn ACL, and we already know he's more than likely not going to be. So, they might start Kyle Murphy or Jason Spriggs at right tackle, and maybe Justin McCray at right guard or Justin McCray at right tackle if they don't trust Murphy or Spriggs, or if one of the two aren't healed in time either. Or if they digress in camp. There's so many scenarios that can, just play out. And that's the beauty of the Packers offensive line right now is, as makeshift as it is and as many moving parts as they have, that's the thing. There's just so many versatile pieces that they can throw into multiple spots and just kind of plug them in and have them play. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. That's really my two primary position battles I'm watching.
On that first note, so what you're saying is John Gruden doesn't know what he's doing by signing Jordy Nelson to Oakland, an aging receiver. You're saying he doesn't have a plan, Zach? Is that what you're saying? Because come on, man.
I would never.
Yeah.
John Gruden not having John Gruden not having a plan?
The Raiders are heading in they're heading in under the right direction, Zach. Okay, let's not insinuate otherwise. Signing all those aging players, they're doing the right.
If the right direction is the fossil age, then yes.
Yes, absolutely.
They're making a straight beeline back to the dinosaur age.
He is a staff writer and reporter for Cheesehead TV. He is Zach Jacobson. Zach Jacobson. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach A. Jacobson. And we're previewing the Packers, who are the Bears' first opponent in the 2018 season on Sunday Night Football. And Zach, let's move over to actually discuss the acquisition periods, first of which is free agency. And for the first time in a long time, they weren't necessarily like the big ticket top guys by any means. They weren't like the big fish, but they were in like comparison to what the Packers have done in free agency, which is they're almost never big players on the open market. Jimmy Graham and Muhammad Wilkerson were some pretty big additions with a lot of upside, and I wouldn't say much risk because, and I think you'd agree, considering that you're just banking on them trying to maximize your roster as best as possible with two needs. So how are they going to help Green Bay? And you can start with either or.
Well, Jimmy Graham is definitely just literally a huge addition to the offense. He's 6'7". You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a huge target for Aaron Rodgers, and it kind of fits with the theme that the receivers they drafted, 6'3" and above. They're obviously going for bigger bodies for Aaron Rodgers with a much wider catch radius. So, he's definitely going to be a huge red zone target for Aaron Rodgers. He caught double-digit touchdowns in Seattle last season in a very bad offense that had almost zero O-line for Russell Wilson. And he's also going to function as a receiver, and I think a lot of people forget that. He might, the roster might say he's a tight end, but he's going to play a lot in the slot. Jimmy
Graham doesn't line up in line. He does not line up in line. He's not,
he's not a blocking tight end. He doesn't line up as your traditional tight end. He's going to run routes down the field. He's going to be able to isolate. He's going to be able to get open. He's going to be able to stretch the field for you a little bit, similar to how Jermichael Finley was able to do.
That's actually what I was going to say. It reminded me of that. Probably a better version, though.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully one that can catch. But yeah, he's going to be a huge addition to that offense. And, barring whether or not he can stay healthy, it could be a big year for him. He could be the Packers' second leading receiver behind, Devontae Adams, the best receiver in the league, obviously.
Okay, let's. Wow.
All right, I'm just kidding.
That's some green and yellow. That's green and yellow Kool-Aid right there. That's green,
Yeah,
but anyway,
I was a little thirsty. Sorry. Now Muhammad Wilkerson, he's gonna be able to come right in and start. Considering the Packers are gonna roll with a bunch of different packages with Mike Pettin, because they're not gonna stick with a traditional 3-4 or 4-3 base anymore. They're gonna be running a linebacker in down on the box. They're gonna be running a safety down in the box, probably Josh Jones or maybe even Kentrell Bryce. They're gonna be rolling a bunch of different packages and moving Clay Matthews around. They're gonna be having sometimes, hopefully never, they're gonna maybe have 3 down linemen. Hopefully never, because that's Satan. And that's Muhammad. What was that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, Muhammad Wilkerson is pretty much always going to be on the line. He's going to be a huge part in stopping the run, but he could also rush the passer. So, and you also get the familiarity, between him and Pettin, from their days in, with the New York Jets, where they had a ton of success with each other.
What's the sense with the motivation there? Because Wilkerson has been criticized for his work ethic for the last 2 years with the Jets, and to be fair, it's very difficult to be motivated with the Jets. But still, there's a reason this was seen as he wasn't as big of for a guy that was once a second team All-Pro 2 times. I mean, he probably would have normally been a bigger free agent, and the Jets probably wouldn't have cut him with $10 million in dead cap space. So what's the sense? So I'm gauging that the thought process here was Pettin being the motivating factor to get that Wilkerson back out.
I think that's the biggest part of it, because if anybody can get Wilkerson in line, I'm pretty sure it's Pettin. And you also look at the fact how cheap they got Wilkerson. Is 1 year, what was it, a $5 million contract? I think I believe $3 million of it was for incentives. So it's pretty much a purely incentive-based contract. Pretty much I wouldn't say a prove-it deal, but it's show us what you could do for this one season. At your age, show us what you could still do with your old defensive coordinator at 28 years old, and if you can get your act together and prove that your last season with the Jets, prove that it was a fluke, then maybe it could lead to even more money, a longer tenure in Green Bay. Who knows? But I think the contract, what they got him for, was definitely the best part of the deal. And, obviously reuniting him with Pettin too, that was huge. So I'm pretty sure that was the whole incentive behind it, was just to hope that Pettin can kind of keep him in line.
To the draft, Zach, and the Packers were pretty active in the first round in that they traded down, and then they traded down again, and they traded back up to get Jair Alexander with their first pick. And they weren't done with addressing their secondary, clearly because they're very afraid of Mitch Trubisky, Allen Robinson, and company. And
obviously,
that was the sole motivation. That's how teams draft. Josh Jackson in the second round, who a lot of teams had a first round grade on. Some teams were even mocking in the top 10, which was crazy to me. But he's still a very good player. You move on down the line, you get a nice inside linebacker, Oren Burks. You get Jamon Moore in the 4th round, who I loved, Cole Madison, J.K. Scott. This is a deep class and address a big secondary need for Green Bay. So what are the highlights for you? Where are your concerns? I think that overall this was probably, over the entire division, I think really no one really had a bad draft, and Green Bay's stacked up pretty well in the NFC.
I actually think the Bears and the Packers, we had the best drafts in the division.
Yeah.
not even being biased or anything.
I'm not even being biased. I actually think that. I think both. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny. Is I kept saying that like the Vikings, their undrafted haul was better than their actual draft. Like outside of Mike Hughes.
I mean, they attack. I mean, what the Vikings did was more attacking like depth because they have. I think the Packers and Bears have more like had more complete roster issues, while the Vikings were already like more or less there. So they were just like, I don't know. That was a different draft strategy. I think that was more obvious. They drafted well previously.
I need something to laugh at. So.
Oh well, yeah, okay, of course. Well, then laugh at the Lions. You've seen me.
Oh, that's true.
You've seen me make a meme out of. I'm not a quarterback wins guy, but you've seen me make a meme out of Matthew Stafford's playoff wins, and that makes some Lions guys I know on Twitter so mad, and so I continue that meme. I continue it. It's the stupidest thing, but it's hilarious because they get so mad about it. I'm very mature. I'm very mature.
No, yeah, same here. No, we don't get by on other fans' depression or sadness or
no, not at all. I am
anger.
No schadenfreude here. Not at all.
No, God no.
Okay. Anyway, the draft
class.
Script. The draft class.
Yeah. Well, my favorite part of the whole draft was absolutely fleecing the Saints out of their next year's first round pick. Like how Brian Gutekunst managed that in his first ever draft. With his first ever draft pick, that was just mastery to me, and I absolutely loved how he did it because they could have had Derwin James if they sat at 14. You know, the most highly touted safety in the draft next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. They could have had him. He fell right into their lap, but he traded back to 27 with the Saints, traded back to 18, and drafted Jair Alexander, who they were gonna pick at 14 apparently. So they still got the player they wanted. They lost a third-round pick, the 76th overall, boo-hoo. And they got next year's first-round pick from the Saints, who, you know, we don't know how Drew Brees is going to play. We don't know if he's going to regress in his age. We don't know if that backfield is going to be as potent as it was, which I think it will be because, I mean, Alvin Kamara, he's really freaking good.
Yeah.
But that was definitely just my favorite part of the whole draft, you know, doing that and still getting who they wanted. And obviously, Josh Jackson falling to 45, that blew my freaking mind. It was like a no-brainer. When the Packers were on the clock at 45.
Falling to 45 is crazy. Falling to 45.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, some mocks had him in the top 10. Some mocks had him going in the top 15. He was pretty much a consensus first-round pick, regardless of where he went in the first round. And he fell to nearly in the middle of the second round. And it was like a no-brainer for Green Bay to grab him. Like, absolutely. Yeah. I love the Oren Burks pick, too. He's just a covered linebacker. Nothing sexy about the pick, but, you know, he's kind of like a bigger Morgan Burnett. You know, he's going to be able to play in the box. He's pretty much like just a cover linebacker. You know, you have Blake Martinez as your thumper. He's going to be able to stop the run, do all that. But Oren Burks, he's going to be able to stop those the routes out of the backfield. He's going to be able to stop the Texas routes that Christian McCaffrey just embarrassed Clay Matthews on last season. You mentioned the Cole Madison pick too. I think that has a potential to be one of the best picks of the draft for the Packers.
Yeah, especially a fifth rounder. You don't really find value that far in the draft normally. What about Jamon Moore?
Jamon Moore. Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say that's a Ted Thompson pick. I guarantee you Ted was whispering in Brian's ear saying, hey, get that guy. Hey, that guy right there. Cole Madison. Because that's just a total Ted pick. He's a prototype Green Bay player, too. He looks like he just emerged from like the freaking the Viking age with that beard and that hair. But Jamon Moore, I'm a little worried that he can only specifically play on the left side of the field, but, you know, he's 6'3". He's got a big body. He's physical. He reminds me a lot of James Jones. He's just another big body for Aaron Rodgers. And like I said earlier, you know, they're looking for guys that can just Aaron Rodgers can kind of just throw it up to him and have like a big catch radius, you know? He's going to be a big red zone threat, just like Jimmy Graham. And I think they don't have any problems. I don't think moving the ball between the 20. It's just they want to score points, as 31 other teams do. And Jamar Moore helps that, as does Equanimous St. Brown. These are big bodies that are going to be able to play in Green Bay's offense. I don't know how much of a factor Jamar Moore is going to be in his first season, but he definitely has the potential there, even as a 4th-round pick.
So there's a lot of competition, and we kind of touched on it earlier with wide receiver. If you had to predict Green Bay's depth chart going into week 1 at wide receiver, so it leads with Devontae Adams, and then who's, I don't know, 2 through 4. So the guys that are primarily going to be on the field, who's 2 through 4?
Shit, I tweeted this like 2 weeks ago. I can't remember it. Well, does Jimmy Graham count, or are you talking specifically wide receivers?
I guess Jimmy Graham could count because he's not going to block. He's going to be a receiver, so you can count Jimmy Graham as the number 2 target. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Well, then I would say you got Devontae Adams, obviously best receiver in football. I'm glad you agree. I need to get an audio cutting of that. Of you saying yeah right after that. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So Devontae Adams, Jimmy Graham, Randall Cobb in the slot. Those are your pretty much primary 3 guys. Then from there you have Geronimo Allison. These are guys whose roster spots are not solidified. Like outside of the top 3 that I named, from here down it's wide open. You got Geronimo Allison. Then you have Jamon Moore. I think then you'll kind of have the rookies filling things out. Jamon Moore, probably Equanimous St. Brown. Then Michael Clark. I think. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the sole purpose of special teams, he's probably going to be the Packers' next gunner. To replace Jeff Janis, probably the kick returner.
The legend Jeff Janis,
our Lord and Savior Jeff Janis. And it's looking very, very slim, but I still kind of believe that Trevor Davis sneaks onto the roster. He's the best kick returner on the team, and he's statistically speaking, he's one of the best punt returners in team history. And I know that's hard to believe, but statistically, he's there. He's right up there. But yeah, I think he finds a way to sneak onto the roster just for the sake of his return duties, because I don't know who else is going to return kicks. I know Jari Alexander was a great kick returner in college, but I don't know if you want to have your starting nickel corner out there returning kicks, your 1st-round pick. So that might give a little more leeway to kind of stash Davis on the roster, but we'll see. Like I said, it's wide open, and there's just so many things that can happen.
Let's finish this off. I don't know how long this is going to go, but let's finish this show up with. So I talked about how the Bears are visiting the Packers for their 100th anniversary in Lambeau Field, Sunday Night Football, Week 1. We both just said how they both had very good draft classes, both had good free agencies. I think, and maybe again this is me drinking some orange Kool-Aid, but I think the Bears had the best off season of anyone in football, and have put themselves. Okay. Let me finish. All right. I think they had the best off season of anyone in football. And they're in a place where if their belief in the guys like Trubisky pays off, that they can be competitive for a while, and that they're right in the thick of the NFC North and the NFC as a whole. But obviously the outside perspective and from the team that most directly opposes and the team that most directly counteracts the Bears is the Packers. So what is your sense of how the Packers and Bears match up now? Take this anywhere you want.
Well, I think. Well, I'm hoping it's not 42-0 by halftime.
Well, yeah,
like that one game,
an actual competitive game. Yeah.
Okay, this is how I feel. Before I get to that, I think a large part of the Bears' success is going to hinge on Mitchell Trubisky and how he plays in his second season.
He's the quarterback. I mean,
right.
They've done everything for him. If he fails, then nothing else matters.
Right, but most like there's been teams throughout the last few seasons who don't have, not even good talent at quarterback, but they still have a very good supporting cast. They have a pretty good defense, and I've spoken highly of the Bears' front seven for the last 3 years because I still think it's extremely talented. I think it's one of the best in football, and I know I know I shouldn't be saying that about a rival team, but I do speak highly of them, and I think highly.
Yeah.
So I think the Bears, they're going to hinge obviously on Mitchell Trubisky. How that fares against the Packers, against an experienced defensive coordinator, I don't know. And especially with you guys hired Matt Nagy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a first-year coach going into Green Bay on Sunday Night Football, I don't know. Matchup-wise, Aaron Rodgers, do you guys – who is left in your secondary?
Kyle Fuller, Prince Amukamara, Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos are the current starters. So it's the same secondary as last year. Same starting secondary anyway.
When the Packers sweeped? Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty good secondary, Zach. Okay.
All right, Robert. It is. I like Eddie Jackson. That's about it. I can't see the Bears matching up physically pound for pound with the Packers.
Okay, that's fair.
Even with Brett Hundley last season, the Packers, they played their hearts out. Even with just the mess that Brett Hundley was at quarterback. And of course, last season was last season. This is a completely new season. You're entering, it's 2018. Everything's refreshed, recharged, new head coach over in Chicago, new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, front office in Green Bay, new weapons for Aaron Rodgers to play with. I don't know. I think it's going to be a bloodbath, but that's my May 9th prediction. So
yeah, I know it's May, but we do this anyway because that's what we do, Zach. I'm just saying. My thing to that point is I think a lot of and I know you're not like intently familiar with this, but a lot of the Bears throughout John Fox's tenure, there would always be these points where they come to a turning point, or you felt like they were coming to a turning point, and then once they were there, they'd fall flat on their ass. They would. They absolutely would. They start to build some momentum up. They'd win consecutive games or whatever, or they play well, and then they fall flat on their ass. And one of those games was against the Packers, coming off of a bye week. And I think that speaks to the kind of coach that Fox towards the end of his tenure and probably towards the end of his NFL coaching career, if we're being really honest. We don't know what Matt Nagy is. We don't know if he's a good coach, but part of, I guess, the optimism and part of what their belief is the same thing with Trubisky. Is Nagy's a more modern guy. He's a guy that's going to motivate them more to not have those like fall flat on their face, fall flat on their ass moments. They'll go through their growing pains this year more than likely. But they're not going to be that team that like builds momentum and then falls and then fails through or doesn't show up. They might not win the game, but they'll always show up. I think that's the kind of it hinges on those two guys, really. It hinges on Nagy and Trubisky, which is, I guess, how it's. To your point, other teams have had it better, but the Bears are building their organization around the quarterback and head coach duo, which isn't something anyone around these parts is really used to. And if it pays off well, then they're going to be competitive. And if it doesn't, then Ryan Pace and everyone else is fired. But I prefer that bet.
Oof.
I like that bet.
Right. You should.
It's better than being a team that doesn't because to be a great contender, you need a good head coach and you need a top 10 quarterback. You need a star quarterback. Bears have never done this, and we have to see how it plays out.
And you need a front office that isn't scared of
making
decisions. Yeah. If something isn't working out, you need to take the trash out. You need to bring in some fresh energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I completely get what you're saying. You put it better than me.
I was going to say, if you had to pick one aspect that the new Bears, and again I'm doing air quotes, it's really only the offense that has drastically changed. If you had to put one place where you're a little uncertain about Green Bay that the Bears could attack or that the Bears might have an advantage, where would that be?
I would say the middle of the field against Green Bay's defense. Mainly because Blake Martinez, he's, like I said earlier, he's a very good thumper, very good against the run. But the thing is, I know it's crazy. You guys aren't going to run the football all game.
Yeah.
You're going to throw the football as well. So if the Bears attack the middle of the field, Green Bay pretty much has to rely on a rookie linebacker named Oren Burks in his first career game, unless we're talking about the second meeting later in the season. But, for all purposes of this conversation, we'll stick to the first game. In his first career game, needs to pretty much man down the middle of the field in pass coverage. And I don't think he's going to be up to that challenge in his very first career game. He could be very good at it eventually down the road, but if the Bears wanted to attack the Packers, their defense, and if they wanted to really piss Mike Pettin off and make him go full stone cold, then that's how you do it.
You'll have...
what was that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, the inexperience there is obviously daunting. Even if they shift Clay Matthews back inside in whatever Packers they decide to run, I still don't think, at his age, early 30s, he's not going to be able to keep up with whatever the Bears decide to throw his way. So, yeah, that would be my primary weakness. If I'm the Bears offensive coordinator and I'm playing with this second-year quarterback with all kinds of weapons around me, Allen Robinson, the Taylor Gabriel,
Anthony Miller.
Anthony Miller. Oh, yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Anthony Miller, Tariq. Yes, I know. Well, is that anger that not getting him? I'm gonna make an audio cut of that sigh.
So mad right now. You know how bad I wanted Green Bay to draft him, right?
He was my favorite receiver. I was so happy. I mean,
he was my favorite receiver.
I liked him more than I know a lot of people had DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley, but in terms of positional value and taking a guy in the second round, I loved Miller. I loved him, and I just a competitive freak. I think he's going to be an absolute star, and I think he's going to be an absolute star wherever he plays, wherever he would have played. Sorry.
Yeah. So mad. God.
To close this out, what's one area? To close out the football anyway, what's one area where the Packers have changed? And I think we probably touched on a lot of that, obviously, that the Bears aren't prepared for and would probably exploit Chicago.
Ooh, that's
so the opposite of obviously a weakness of Green Bay. What's a Chicago weakness that the Packers can exploit that's changed?
So a Bears weakness?
Well, you were an area where you think Green Bay has improved that can attack Chicago.
Definitely Green Bay secondary.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's saying a lot, considering how they've been the last few years. But it's important to take into account. They were playing under Dom Capers, and Clinton Dix was playing out of position a lot. Morgan Burnett wasn't playing his best football. And I think when Clinton Dix, when put in the proper situation with, I think Mike Pettin is going to put him in the proper situation, he's really going to ball out. He's going to play the same way he did in 2014, in 2015, in early 2016. And the cornerbacks have just gotten worlds better. Obviously, I think Jaire Alexander is going to immediately contribute. Same with Josh Jackson. They have the potential to possibly be the best cornerback duo in the NFC North. So we'll see how that pans out, obviously. That's saying a lot. But, they definitely have the potential there as two projected first-round picks. And the experience that Tremont brings to that cornerback room and his added value on the field, given how well he played in Arizona last season, you get kind of like a double-ended sword there. So I think definitely, when Mitchell Trubisky's throwing the football, he better be careful, because I think Mike Pettin's going to put a lot of his guys in position to succeed, because they have the talent now. They have the talented pieces to capitalize, and it's just going to be really, really something for Trubisky to look out for. That's really
that's the best way to sum it up.
That's the best way to sum it up.
We'll look forward to it. I can't remember the last time I was actually excited for the Bears to play a primetime game.
That is pathetic.
Well, first of all, they've been bad. So they've been bad. So where it's like, it's that thing where they've only had primetime games in the last few years because they play in Chicago, and Bears fans and the Bears audience will watch regardless. They'll have it on in the background, and it's still going to get monster ratings. I can't remember actually being excited. So this is a game where I'm actually excited to watch unfold because, they might be competitive. And I'm sure that'll be squashed once it's 28-0 after when at the first half ends. But I'm talking about going in, Zach. I'm talking about going.
I'm glad you're already accepting your fate.
Yeah, well, the Bears have to prove something to me before I anoint them too much. I don't drink that much orange Kool-Aid, I don't drink that much orange Kool-Aid. Zach, probably we have the June break coming up soon. Buddy, how are you going to maximize it? How are you going to maximize your no football talk for I think like 5 or 6 weeks? It's really not that long.
Well, I'm not taking a summer class this summer, so I'm thankful for that. Probably one of the best decisions I ever made. So I'm in California. I gotta enjoy the beach as much as I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just spending a lot of time down there, probably with my girlfriend. Really just enjoying it down here, enjoying the expensive, polluted California lifestyle.
You're in California. I hate you. No, I don't hate you.
That's really mean.
I don't hate you. Chicago summers are nice too, so I shouldn't be that jealous.
Hey, in my defense, I want to get the hell out of here. 23 years here is enough for me.
Oh, where do you want to go? Maybe you don't want to say this publicly, but where do you want to go? Sorry.
Well, Seattle would be nice. Anywhere like up north, like Oregon, Seattle area, Washington.
You don't want to move. You don't want to move to the central time zone, Chicago, Wisconsin, anywhere like that.
I'd love to move. Nice. I'd love to move to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I think eventually I'll find my way over there. I think I would have to have like probably the proper job offer to get out there and actually. Make my home out there. What was that?
I don't know your full. I don't know your full background now. How did you become someone that covers the Packers and is invested in the Packers if you're all the way out in California?
Well, first I started with the NFC North Barroom.
Okay.
I have Aldo Gandia to thank for that. I got started with them. They really helped me kind of mold my craft a lot more into rounded as a writer. And then I guess Aaron Nagler referenced me to Jersey Al, who is the editor-in-chief at Cheesehead TV. Aaron Nagler is the co-founder, him and Corey Bankey. They referenced me in May 2016, and I guess they liked what they saw, and they added me onto the staff. So it's going to be, in a couple of weeks, it'll be officially 2 years that I've been there. So, yeah, that's pretty much how I got to Cheesehead TV, where I'm at right now. And I'm studying journalism in school.
Okay.
All that fun stuff.
Hey, it is fun. You don't sound that enthusiastic. It is fun.
In my defense, I've worked all day, and I'm tired.
I'm 24, Zach, so I'm in the same boat as you, man. I mean, so I can I fully empathize and I understand. So that's why I'm saying that we should be enthusiastic about where we're going. So
we are. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I love what I do. Even if I regardless, if I got paid in peanuts, I would be totally happy because this is something that I love doing. I'm sure it's something you love doing. That's the fun of it. It's something we love doing. Eventually someday it turns into a full-time job, then you can be happy for the rest of your life.
Oh man, this is way too much of a love fest. I need to end this now. This is too cordial between.
Bears suck.
Yeah, Packers, something. They're the worst. I don't know. I'm not creative enough. He is Zach Jacobson. He covers the Packers for Cheesehead TV. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach A. Jacobson. Zach, I appreciate you taking the time. This was fun. I'm sure we'll talk down the road and on Twitter and all that fun stuff.
Robert, I really appreciate you having me on, man. I enjoyed this conversation. You're a great host. Bears suck. What?
Okay, at least that makes me feel better. You saying that makes me feel better. We're not as cordial anymore.
Yeah, now we're back to normal.
You can follow us on Twitter at WC Gridiron. Follow me on Twitter at Robert Zaglinski. We're not done with the offseason yet, folks. Minicamp and OTAs will be underway by the weekend. Training camp will be here in July. Plenty of content analysis coming your way, and keep it with us. And as always, stay classy.
I'm really